Hello, dear students. So, we have completed the first chapter of our maths book, and we are all set to start the second chapter, that is fractions and decimals. So, this class will be an introductory class of the chapter, and we can also say it as a revision of what you have learned in your earlier classes. Now, let's begin. So, first of all, what are fractions? Now, in the most simplest term, fraction means part of a whole, or you can say a portion of a whole. And by whole, I mean something that represents as complete, or say one unit, right? Okay, so as an example, we can take this pizza here. I'm sure all of you are very fond of it and must be craving during these periods of lockdown. So, whatever it is, if I divide this pizza into 6 equal parts, or say portions, mind you, equal, as you can see, there are already 6 divisions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so one portion of this particular pizza can be termed as, or one part of this pizza can be termed as the fraction of pizza. Alright, and if I have to represent this mathematically, then it will come out to be 1 by 6. Now, the number 6 here denotes the all total number of parts or portions of the pizza, and 1 represents particularly one part, or say piece of pizza that I'm talking about. Alright, so if we have to represent one particular piece, then this is how we are going to do it mathematically. And this is an example of your fraction. Now, in fraction, there are two terms. The number at the top, sitting at the top, is known as the numerator. You all know it. You have done it so much in your earlier class. I mean, you have got a whole chapter as fractions in class 6, right? So, this is just a revision. And the number sitting at the bottom is known as your denominator, right? Okay. So, these are the things that we have to know. Now, next we have the types of fractions. Now, based on the type of numerator and denominator, I would rather say, we can categorize fractions into mainly two parts. Okay, and one more part is there, but we'll go to that later on. Now, the first part we have is your proper fraction. Now, when do we call a fraction as a proper fraction? Simply when your numerator is less than the denominator. Okay, and there are some examples given here. Yes, one is your 1 by 3 and another one 5 by 7, right? And what is the condition for a fraction to be proper? Remember, it has to be, the numerator should be less than the denominator. Next, we have your improper fraction, and condition here is the numerator needs to be greater than the denominator always. Okay, so some examples are given here. Yes, one is 9 by 4, another one 3 by 2, and you can write as many examples as you want. You can create as many fractions as you want, to be precise. Now, the third type of fraction is known as your mixed fraction, and this mixed fraction has got a connection with improper fraction. And how it is so? Let's see this with the help of an example. So as you can see here, I have placed this improper fraction which has got converted into your mixed fraction. But how? Quite simple, since you have done it. If you divide the numerator of the improper fraction with the denominator of the same fraction, then you are going to get a quotient, which is known as Q, also a remainder, right? And using these two, that improper fraction which has undergone division can be written in the form Q. Below that will be the denominator and the R, where R represents your remainder, Q represents your quotient. So similarly, when we divide 48 by 7, the quotient is your 6, because 7 into 6 will give you 42, right? And the remainder is also 6. So 7 into 6 is giving you 42. Then you add this 6 to 42 and the answer will be your 48. I hope this part is clear to you. It's not very hard. So in order to have a mixed fraction, the first thing that you will require is an improper fraction. You cannot convert a proper fraction into a mixed fraction. That will be completely wrong. So I hope this is making sense to you. Now, okay, so these are some processes or procedures that we have done. We have done addition of fractions, we have done subtraction of fractions, right? And in both of them, we know that we have used term called LCM as well as HCF even sometimes, but LCM has the utmost use. Okay. Now next, as you can see here, there is another term called equivalent fractions. Now what do we mean by equivalent fractions? Okay. So equivalent fractions are those fractions that have different numerators and denominators. Okay. But they represent the same value or proportion or portion of a whole, or say one unit. For example, if I write two fractions here, let's say one is your 1 by 3, another is your 3 by 9. So if you see here properly, the numbers, the numerator and denominator, all are different, right? But if I divide, let's say, I'll write it again. Yes. If I divide this 3 by 9 and convert it into lowest terms, I'm very sure that you are able to understand what I'm trying to say. Converting lowest terms means if I divide these both numerator and denominator by their same factor and reduce them to their lowest number possible, then 3 by 9 will get changed into 1 by 3, which is equivalent to your the first fraction written, right? And this indicates that both of the fractions, although they have different numerators and denominators, are representing the same proportion or same value of one whole or complete unit. Alright, and that's why these two are equivalent fractions. So in your earlier class, you have got questions where you have to find equivalent fractions of a given fraction, like this one. Say we have 3 by 5 as the given fraction, of which we have to find an equivalent fraction. So how we are going to do? It's quite simple. What we did is we extended the fraction here and we multiply both the numerator as well as the denominator with the factor or say number 2. And when we have multiplied, the number we are getting is, or the fraction we are getting is 6 by 10. And if you want to verify it, you simply divide 6 by 10 with their common factor. That is the number which can divide both of them, which is going to be your 2. And ultimately, you will be getting, or this whole fraction will get reduced to your fraction 3 by 5, which indicates same value. And hence, 3 by 5 and 6 by 10 are equivalent fractions. Alright. Now, in your earlier class, you also got a few questions where you have to compare between fractions. Say, you are asked like which one is greater or less than the other one, right? So, you need to compare between 3 by 5 and 4 by 8. In this form, what you have to do is, first of all, you have to find out the LCM, and then with the help of that LCM or based on that LCM, you need to change them into a fraction that appears to be equivalent, though not completely. That means here we will be changing only the denominator. Since you have done it already, so I hope you don't need much of an explanation here. So when the denominator becomes equal, numerator will be slightly different, but it becomes easy for us to compare in between. And that's how we used to do all the problems related to fractions. Now, this was just the introductory part of your fractions, and based on what we have discussed now, you will be doing an exercise. That is the first exercise of this chapter, and it's not very tough. It's very easy. It's totally based on what you have learned in your earlier class and also what we did today as a revision. So in case you have something to ask about anything, feel free to contact me. Okay? Thank you.